Good evening, how's it going? I just wanted to get on and share a quick tip that I just kind of figured out going over some riffs that I'm learning for the upcoming weekend. So the point is, it pays to know where your riff is in relation to the key. In other words, how can I find the root given the riff that I'm playing? So the reason that's important is, let's say, playing time comes around and the singer's got to drop it 1.5 steps. Some of us can memorize that pretty easily, but sometimes in the heat of the moment, on the fly, even though we went over it, maybe we practiced it once, I can forget that. Maybe I can forget exactly what fret I was starting at with what riff. If you're talking about like switching, going from from C to D or something, and you can, and technically you can just slide up 2 frets and play the same lick in whatever position you're at, but sometimes even I can forget that, so it always pays to know where the root of whatever song you're playing is, the key of the song in relation to the lick. So I'm going to go over some examples licks that I'm going to be playing this upcoming weekend, and where the root is and how that's handy, just in case we got to change keys for whatever reason. So the first one's a very simple one. So this is the opening riff. I'm playing this. This is the first thing we're playing on the weekend. So that riff is in the key of E flat. So right off, I know that I'm basically in this A position, A down here, I'm up here in E flat position. I know that because the E flat's here and E is here. But if you're not familiar with all these positions, C, D, E, and they extend up here, here's your E shape, here's your E chord in the A shape, E and C. I've got a couple other videos that go through, kind of going through those chord shapes, but even if you weren't familiar with those, the root is right here. So E flat is this, in this case, it's the G string on this chord. So if I'm starting off here, the very first note I'm playing is the root, so I can always tell. So, if we need to switch down to C, I know I'm down here. C. That's a pretty easy one, just because we're just using the A shape for the main lick there. But that's important to know. So I know that if we have to change keys in either direction, I know where I'm at, because just based on where my position is, and I can always find the root note of that particular lick on the G string. Again, it's just the A shape up the fretboard. So the next one is a little bit of the next one is a slower one as well, and this one goes like this. So this is actually a chorus riff. So this one's a little bit trickier because it starts on the fifth the key. The key is A, and it starts up here. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So I can remember that I'm starting on the fifth, so I just got to remember where the root is. Like, that's the Star Trek interval. So if you remember that, you can remember a fifth. But in this case, I think it's easier because the root of this particular lick is just up one string on the E string. So the root is up here on A. So if I need to switch keys, let's say I need to go to the key of G. I know that G is up here, so I'd be starting here. So if we need to change key at the very last minute, I know that the root note is sitting up here on top on the E string, so wherever we got to go, A, G, B, C. C. So I know that based on the position of the E string. So that's another little hack that I'm going to remember just in case we got to change keys at the last minute. So the next one's a little bit more of an upbeat one. This one goes like this. So this riff, the root note is up here on the B string. So if whatever position I'm in, A. Again, it's in the key of A. So if I need to go up to the key of B, I would just have to slide it up here. Incidentally, that's just a B, a B power chord up here. If I've memorized these power chords. So B, here's F, G, A, and then B is up here. So I know that as well. So I'm sitting in that same position kind of for the start of this lick. I'll know that I'm in the key of B, but in this case, it's actually in the key of A. So that's another good one to remember. If you take whatever lick you're looking at, 9 times out of 10, if it's something that goes along with the chorus, or if it's like an intro lick, it's going to have the root note somewhere in there. So just look at the lick, dissect it a little bit, and figure out where the root note is. So that way, if you have to change keys, you just memorize where you need to be on that particular string, and you can find the key wherever you're at. It's a very handy tip for changing keys at the last minute, which we do quite a bit at church. A lot of times the vocalist will have to drop half a step, half a step, or a step. And in some cases, you can end up in kind of tricky key signatures. But if you remember that trick, if you have to play some kind of leading lick, or any time where you're playing something where you're up here in the frets and you gotta memorize a position or something, it always just pays to know where the root note is, because then you can always find anything on the fly. I used to just do it like this, like if I was if we were in a key of so and so and dropping down a step, I would just drop down 2 frets. But then come playtime, like I said before, sometimes I would forget where I was supposed to be, and I was trying to memorize it based on a fret position versus a key. If you memorize it based on a key, you can't go wrong, because you're always going to be in the right key. If you memorize it based on fret position, I've done that in the past, and on more than one occasion I played 1 fret off, which, as you probably know, is quite horrific in pretty much any case. So it pays to know where the root note is on your licks. Anytime you got to memorize something, especially for lead parts, things where you're going to be shining, maybe sticking out a little bit, just pays to have that in the back of your mind, so you're going to be playing in the right spot. It's awful. I don't know if you've done it, but playing 1 fret off or 2 frets off even, it's embarrassing, and it can be avoided just by doing that. Figuring out where your root is, based on whatever lick you're playing. So I hope you got something out of that. Try and apply it to your own playing. If that's something you struggle with, last minute key changes, if you forget where you're supposed to be, try doing this instead of, jumping around to different frets. Hope you got something out of that. Thanks. Have a good night.